Thanks to the support as a channel member, Ree Faraday. Well then, that promotion to the Premier League wasn't exactly expected, but now we've got a little bit of money to spend. I don't think it's enough money for us to actually build a team that can stay in the Premier League, so I'm now in that lovely quandary that you get at when you get promoted to the Premier League, and that is, do I spend this £36 million on young players who do a great job of getting us promoted again next year, or do I buy a bunch of Premier League journeymen and try and scramble around and stay in the Premier League? Or do we do secret option 3 and just sign whatever we fancy and jump ship in October? It's going to be one of those, I imagine. Hello and welcome to Club 2, part 14 of Non-League to Legend. I'm Kevin. Coming up on today's episode, it is our season review and transfer special at the end of our glorious promotion season, where if you've missed the last couple of episodes, goodness me, go back and watch them. But spoilers, we've been promoted to the Premier League. We finished second in the Championship, 97 points. It was easy. We did it easy, Pete. Look how far. Easy. We're a very good football team. The only problem is we're a very good football team that does have a lot of loan players within it that are going to cost far too much money for us to bring in permanently. So we do need, there's quite a lot of business that needs to be done and not an enormous amount of money to do that business with. £36 million to spend. We will spread that as thinly as we can using installments. We're going to try and Nottingham Forest this and come up with our team full of loans and then go and sign 20 players who are all Premier League quality, except different to them. We're not going to get relegated at the end of the season. Hello, Forest fans. How are you doing? Looking at the squad as is, we're obviously going to be losing Jamie Roche, Moritz Schaefer, Rodrigo Villagra, Alejandro, Facundo Buonanotte, and Danny Hudson. They're all going. And that leaves us with a quite small squad. If we have a look at the squad planner, let's just ask the assistant manager to shuffle that around for us. Lee Nichols, probably not a Premier League quality goalkeeper. He turns 35 at the start of next season. He's not really got a track. Oh, I say not really got. Doesn't at all have a track record of playing in the Premier League. I would suggest at 35 years old now isn't the time for him to test himself as a Premier League goalkeeper. That needs to be our backup goalkeeper for this season. These two you can just about forget about. So we need a goalkeeper. That's number one on the shopping list. Then we look at left back. Thierry Small at 22 does have the potential to improve. He is an option for the squad. I would suggest Owen Beck probably isn't, and Schaefer's not going to be here. So we need a left back. That's two players we need. At right back, Pascozzi isn't, Bernard isn't. Simon Darlington is our great young hope. We might be forced to sell him this summer, but if we can keep hold of him, he'll definitely be one of our right backs next season. But we need another. So we need a goalkeeper, a left back, and a right back. Then we look at centre back, and this is where we do have a little bit more strength in depth. We've got Pascozzi, we've got O'Brien. We're obviously losing Schaefer and Roach, but we've got Bernard, we've got Story. Although Story wants to leave, so we can pretend he doesn't exist. We can take all of these out. Darlington is not a centre back. Thierry Small's not a centre back. So we need at least one centre back. And then, of course, you start to question, are they good enough for the Premier League? I mean, it's very difficult to say. I think because of all the other players we need, we probably can't go nuts. We'll sign one centre-back. So we need a goalkeeper, a left-back, a right-back, and a centre-back. At defensive midfield, we have got plenty here. Obviously, we're losing Villagra, we're losing Roach, but we've got Harvey White, we've got Carrasco, although Carrasco's future is probably in centre-mid. Ben Whiteman should be fine at the base of the midfield as well. I think this is the first position. We probably don't need to go and buy anybody immediately. Whether any of them end up good enough to play there in the Premier League remains to be seen. But needs must. We're strengthening the areas we actually don't have players, and these were all pretty good players for us last year. Going into central midfield, obviously we lose the loans, so we can take the loans out, but we've got Harvey White. Whiteman's going to be playing defensive midfield when he plays. So then we've got White, Chong, Carrasco, Woodburn, who's a winger, Sunjic, who's a striker. So we've only really got 3 central midfielders with the loanees leaving. Say it with me, boys and girls. We need a goalkeeper. We need a left back. We need a right back. We need a centre back. We need a central midfield player. At least one. There's probably an argument for 2, but at least one. And then on the left wing, we're obviously losing Hudson. We're losing Buonanotte. Ida's a striker. And Beck is a left back who's going to be leaving. So that leaves us with Chong and Woodburn. That should be okay. I think Chong probably is good enough to play in the Premier League. He's got the potential to be a decent Premier League player. Of course, if he's there, he's not here. So that means we now need a second central midfield player if we're looking for 2 in every position. See what I mean about how this summer is going to be? Ben Woodburn, not ideal as a backup, but there's so many other transfers going on. I think we need a little bit of continuity, and unless we get a £10 million offer from QPR for him, Ben Woodburn will likely stick around. And then on the right-hand side, again, we lose the we lose the lone players. If Chong's on the left, Woodburn's on the left, Sunjic might be a winger. He might be up front. Suwanrat, probably not good enough yet for this level, so we need at least one right winger. And then up front, obviously we lose Hudson. We're not going to have Chong. Woodburn's a winger. Sunjic, if we're saying Sunjic is the winger, Sunjic is not a striker, so that means we only have Adamida. So all together now, our shopping list is goalkeeper, because we've not got a goalkeeper, left back, because those two won't be here, right back, because no, I've taken the wrong one off there. You know what I mean? That should be Darlington there. So goalkeeper, left back, right back, centre back, because we've only got 3. DM, we're all right, but then we need 2 central midfielders, so we're up to 6 players now. We're all right on the left wing, but we need a right winger and we need a striker. That is 8 players that we need. 8 Premier League quality players that we need for £36 million. I mean, I'm not a mathematician, but that means we're looking at less than £5 million a player, nearer to £4 million a player for 8 Premier League quality players, one of which is a striker, a Premier League quality striker for less than £4 million. We're going to need to do some loans again, aren't we? For some reason, the season review hasn't popped up on the screen the way it normally does. It started us off with the all-time best 11, which is fairly meaningless to us because it's the flat-back 7 that we would never use and a bunch of players that we've largely moved on. So we'll just focus on the season review, which we're going to have to force onto the screen ourselves. The greatest season in the modern history of Preston North End. I think that is a fair way to describe what's just happened. Signing of the season has gone to Lee Nichols, which I guess in the circumstances, goodness me, were we desperate for a goalkeeper. We brought one in relatively cheap, £240,000, and he did not let us down. Like I say, he's not going to be our Premier League goalkeeper if all goes to plan. But certainly last season, he came in, got the job done. Very, very important. And then it's all about the loans. Roach, Buonanotte, Villagra, Schaefer, all very, very important. Not going to be here this year. Bernard came in and was very important as well, as was Small, Chong. We did a lot of good transfers last summer. If we can have a summer this summer as good as last summer, we'll be very happy. We were supposed to avoid relegation from the Championship. We ended up getting promoted in second place with 91% average home attendance as well. So I would expect us to be selling out Deepdale this coming season in the Premier League. Whether that's going to lead to stadium expansion, new ground talks, that kind of thing, who knows? But we've got previous of supposed to be avoiding relegation and getting promoted. So on that basis, I assume we've got to avoid relegation or try to avoid relegation from the Premier League in this coming year. So I guess we're going to get in the Champions League. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. Finance-wise, it is a mess. We know it's a little bit of a mess. Not like we've been really a responsible mess. More this club is not big enough to be in the Premier League kind of mess, which I'm hoping the money coming in will sort. A club reputation of only 3 stars is problematic when it comes to bringing in those Premier League quality players we were talking about. That means we're probably going to have to lean towards focusing on young players the way we have so far. I think we're going to struggle to bring in those Premier League journeymen to come in and join a 3-star reputation club who are favourites for relegation and don't have enough money to throw Jesse Lingard at Forest money at them. So I think that kind of forces our hand into focusing in on youngsters. You can see that on the whole, most of the money stuff was down this season just gone, but obviously now being in the Premier League, all of this is going to increase massively. But we're not going to see that until the season starts to progress. That doesn't help us right now. Adamida sells more shirts than anybody, as you would expect, and that was our team of the year. Nichols in goal, a back four of Schaefer, Pascozzi, Bernard and Darlington, Whiteman at the base of midfield, Roach and White ahead of him, Woodburn on the left, Buonanotte on the right, Ida up front. It's notable how many of them are loans. We've got Schaefer, we've got Roach, we've got Buonanotte, and I mean, actually, that's not as bad as it could have been. But we still need numbers through the door. And we've got lots of, did we set any competition awards? We didn't set any competition awards. We broke a lot of records. Adamida winning lots of stuff. Fans player of the year, top scorer, most assists, most man of the matches, highest average rating. Buonanotte got Young Player of the Year. Nichols, as we know, is signing of the season. And Ida breaking the club record for goals in a season. These are obviously the modern club records since the save began, not since time began. I'm sure there's been a player at Preston in history who scored more than 28 goals. Likewise, I imagine Jamie Roach isn't the first Preston player ever to score a hat-trick. Also set the assist record. Nichols with most clean sheets. These are records that aren't going to be broken for a while, boys and girls. The ones that will be broken are probably the ones to do with transfer fees, because there's going to be shenanigans this summer. Dynamic manager timeline. It's lovely and dynamic. And as you would expect for a team on the up, we've had an increase in the percentage of our fans who are fair weather fans compared to core, and because we're bringing in people who weren't necessarily that interested in the club before, because they've now got a Premier League club in their city. We've increased our social media following. As an influencer, I can confirm that is pretty much all that matters. And club vision is an attempt to avoid relegation from the Premier League, as you would expect. The reading between the lines there is, as long as we're not embarrassing, it doesn't matter if we get relegated, I shouldn't be sacked. Which again leans us towards the plan of bringing in young players who are already going to get better for next, not this coming season, the one after that, when we're probably back in the Championship, so we can get promoted again. The board want us to develop clubs using the players using the club's youth system. There are a few. As you can see, they're already satisfied with us doing that, and they want us to play attacking, high-tempo, entertaining possession football. They realise we're newly promoted in the Premier League, right? This all seems very realistic. Work within the wage budget, grow the club's reputation. It's all fine. This is why they hired me, because I match up with the club vision so closely. The only problem is that club vision doesn't really work with trying to keep a club in the Premier League. But we will we'll fight bravely against relegation. That's me putting pressure on us. That was literally the lowest option I could do. But okay, I'm glad you're all really confident in your own abilities. Goodness me. I had no lower option than that, I don't think. I'll level with you. Didn't read the other ones. We're off on our end of season break. Where are we going? Where shall we go? We could go to the Algarve. We could go to the northwest of England. What a treat for the players of Preston North End. A training camp in the northwest of England would be. I think what we're actually going to... You know what? We will go to the Algarve. Let's have some warm weather training. It'll be lovely. Nice little holiday. And hopefully we'll come back with a bunch of new players. What I've got to do now is try and navigate contract renewals. Because as you can see, there's players we've already promised new contracts to. We've got 22 days. So the end of May, they're going to come knocking on my door again. I already know Owen Beck, we're probably going to move on. But Bernard and Chong, we've just gone through the squad planner. These are players we want to use next year. So we are going to have to give them new deals. Bernard's already on 11 grand a week. Chong is already on 14 grand a week. These boys are going to want big pay rises. And that's where the problems start to come in. Because we're talking in terms of £36 million. But if this committed spending starts to get near the wage budget, then the transfer budget starts to come down as more has to go into wage budget. And that 36 million becomes like 15, 20 million. And then you're having to buy 8 players at a couple of £1 million a piece, which you can maybe do it with 1 or 2. We've shown it with the likes of Hudson, Darlington, Carrasco. There are bargains to be had. Not 8 in one go, though, who are going to be first team ready. I wouldn't have thought. So free transfers, loans might be necessary. We've announced plans for undersoil heating. Yay for us. It is cold up north. I can confirm when I went to Preston that day, 'twas very cold. So undersoil heating, under seat heating would be handy as well. Speaking from bitter personal experience. But my plan now is just to get out there scouting. I went very, very Peterborough accent there, I'm afraid. We're going to get out and about, doing our scouting, and hopefully find some bargains. If not do a lot before the 1st of July, because 1st of July is free transfer day, and we'll see what's what on free transfer day, unless some bargains present themselves in the meantime. It feels like a good plan to me. Right, we've made it through to the opening of the transfer window on the 9th of June, and we have cleared out a few of these players that we don't need, and there's also a couple of youngsters coming in. Weirdly, it's telling us the percentage sell-ons that are going to other clubs before the actual sales are announced. But we have sold Owen Beck to Bristol City, £2.94 million. He's a player who wanted an increased contract as a backup player, and it's a position we were already looking to strengthen, so it made sense to cash in while the going was good. And it's another example of this wonderful transfer history that we've already established here at Preston. 18 months he was at the club. We signed him for £55,000, sold him for nearly £3 million, and he'll be able to continue playing at his level in the Championship. We have to give a little bit to Liverpool, but even so, it's a nice little bit of extra money in the kitty, and we've not had to waste money on increasing his contract. He didn't get much of a pay rise for going there either, so it's why he was a silly boy for wanting so much money to play for us. Jordan Storey had been wanting to leave for a little while, and at 29 years old and not really a guaranteed starter anymore, I certainly wasn't going to stand in his way. £2 million. He's gone to Luton, and we've had to pay a little bit over to Exeter as well. £500,000 has gone to Exeter, but still, money in the kitty for a player we weren't really going to use. And Saidi Anguissa is going to be playing in the Premier League next year, but for QPR rather than us. And I mean, he's a backup, and I imagine he's going there as a backup, and it's fine. We brought in some youngsters as well. These are the pre-arranged young players who were released by Premier League clubs earlier in the season when that lovely email comes through. So it's going to be another test of our scouts and our coaches to see if any of them have got that 5-star potential that we look for in these players. So Dwight Jones, he doesn't look too bad, does he? Left winger, 6'2" already at 18 years old. Lots of potential. He comes in from Tottenham and can play anywhere up that left-hand side and also down the middle as well. Quite a versatile player. Probably needs to pick a position and focus in on it. And of course, in my world, he's obviously a left-back. Who cares that he can't tackle? He's obviously a left-back. We've got Fode Mana, who has got a little bit less potential. Scottish, no youth caps just yet. He's a central midfielder / centre-back who comes in from Liverpool and will probably never play a game for us. Daniel Jones has got that full 5 stars of potential. He's a holding midfield player who can also play centre-back, right-back, central midfield. He comes in from Chelsea and has legitimate 5-star Premier League potential. So he makes it worth the gamble just all on his own. And then we've got Jude Warren with 4 stars of potential, another central midfielder. He comes in from Tottenham. And finally, Livesey Thompson, who is another defensive midfielder / central midfielder, 4.5 stars of potential. He is in from Liverpool. So, I mean, this guy looks quite good. They'll all just go straight into the under-21s. Whether we'll see any of them in this coming season depends how they get on over the summer, but it's always handy to bring in some young players to complement our already pretty good youth setup. We've got some good youth prospects of our own, which I'll show you in just a second. So the future is definitely looking pretty good for the club, which with the extra money that we've just been able to bring in from selling those players means we can really focus on first team ready players with the budget that we've now got, nearly £40 million, even with the contract renewals, which we've now done. Hold on, there's your confirmation. The contract renewals are done. Bernard, Chong and Woodburn have all got new deals. Bernard on £20,000 a week, Chong £28,000, Woodburn £25,000. They're all expensive, but we are a Premier League team now. And even with those contract renewals, we've got £40 million to spend and a spare £200,000 a week in the wage budget. It is just about possible that we could go and get those 8 players that we need at £5 million a pop and pay each of them like £20,000-25,000 a week. If they exist, it is doable. Now we just need to find out if they exist. As mentioned, though, the development centre looking pretty good. I think we'll actually move Jones straight up into the first team squad. But we do have some other good young players knocking around the place. Rob Harley is an example of one. In fact, let's go into here, sort it by potential. Are they already in the under-21s? I know there's some good uns who've been out on loan. There you go. Morty Pullman is one of the ones I was looking for, who is a young left-back with 4.5 stars of potential. He's been out on loan in League One for Grimsby this year. If we were still in the Championship, he'd definitely be in our squad for next year. Probably a year too soon for him, though. We've looked at Rodrigo Toucan before. He is out on loan at Eastleigh and probably needs another season out on loan as well. Again, another one who, if we weren't in the Premier League, then maybe, but it's probably not the time just now. But there's a few. Sol Latham has got a huge amount of value to him. Has been playing in League One this year. Jamie Hislop is another one with decent potential. We've got some good youngsters knocking around the place, which is definitely a positive. But our job now, I've procrastinated long enough. We've brought in youngsters with extended contracts. we've sold the fringe players that we don't need. I now actually have to go and find this magical 8 players who are going to come in and turn us into a mid-table Premier League team. Like I say, really confident that they exist. Oh, exciting times. Simon Darlington has made his full Wales debut at 18 years old. He is a full Welsh international. This is a boy who 18 months ago was playing for Cardiff Met Uni, even though he was too young to be at uni. Is he a really good footballer and a genius? Because that's quite impressive. If he was at uni at 15, like his appearances suggest, he's a clever boy and also gets a pay rise. And we are starting to identify some players. Whether we're going to get any of them is a completely different matter because we're going after some pretty good wonder kids who are, or close to wonder kids. I mean, this guy's not officially a wonder kid, but I think he's one of several who we're competing with some big clubs for. So we're competing with Marseille for him whilst still scouting him. This guy, we've got Lille, Celtic, QPR, all want him. This guy is also wanted by Arsenal and Aston Villa. I don't think there's much chance of us getting many of these. Rafa is wanted by just us. We might get Rafa. There you go. Maybe Rafa will be one. Gabriel Sartori. Again, we might get him. And Ameth Tall, who's only 5'11", was also wanted by Tottenham. So no big clubs in for him either. So there's a chance that we might get some of them. We shall see, I guess. This is where we now cut to sad-faced Kev, who's missed out on all of them, and I have to really lower the standard of players that we're going to be aiming for this summer. If we get all of them, that is a very good start. And it begins. Tall is going to Tottenham, Trilly is going to Celtic, and this is going to be the story of the summer, I think. I'm not going to show you every player we go in for because there's going to be some frustration. Oh, Godard is going to Arsenal under 18s. Rather than coming to us, he's going to Arsenal under 18s. We are getting this guy if he gets a work permit, which is a big if. But if we do, that's a very solid central midfield player. So that'll be a nice start. He meets the price criteria sort of as well. He's around about the £5 million mark, around about the £10,000 to £15,000 a week mark. So work permit permitting, we've got 1 of 8 in. We are missing out on almost all of the others, it seems, which is very sad. We have our first player in, Gabriel Sartori, who doesn't play in any of those positions we were talking about before. I mean, he's a natural attacking midfielder, which we're very unlikely to use, but he can play central midfield, he can play on the left wing, he can play on the right wing. Definitely positions we are likely to use him. Really, my plan for him is he competes with Chong as in the Mazzala and the inverted winger on the left-hand side role with his right foot. He's got loads of potential, 3 stars of current ability, so he's ready to come straight into the first team. 5 stars of potential should make him a decent Premier League player by the time all is said and done as well. Still only 19 years old, capped at Italy under 20 level. It is a £10.5 million transfer, but we're only paying £2.5 million of it up front. Get used to that this summer. We've got to stretch this money a long, long way. And he's not on too much money either, only £12,000 a week. So if we can do another 7 of these, then we get the job done. That's the plan. Sartori is in. And this is more like it. Next one through the door, Ulysses, it's not Ulysses. I thought it was Ulysses. It's Ulysses de Klerk, our first ever genuine wonder kid. He's a centre-back, 4-star current ability centre-back. So much better than anyone else we've currently got at the club. Comes straight into the first team. Also got massive potential as well. We've managed to pick him up for £11.25 million, but we're only spending, it was like 1.8 million up front. The rest of it is all on the good old Never Never. And he has got enormous potential. Belgian under 21 international already, 16 under 21 caps at 19 years old for Belgium. He's 6'3" with big boy jumping reach. He is going to score some goals from set pieces for us this year. As you can see, he's already doing 4 goals for the under 21s in Belgium. He was playing in the top league in Belgium all last year at 18 years old and comes straight into our first team for this season. Once again, if we can find a few more of these, we'll be good. 2 down, 6 to go. If we head to the squad planner, you can see that things really are starting to take shape. De Klerk is in as our best central defender, and Sartori is right in there as one of our better central midfielders and also one of our options on the left-hand side. I'm happy with these 2 signings so far. And also, the undersoil heating has been installed, and we've had a slight increase in stature. I don't know if that takes us to 3.5 stars. I don't even know where you check these days now. We're still a 3-star reputation club, which is not going to make it any easier to compete with the big clubs and Spurs for these players that we're trying to get. Fingers crossed we get a work permit for Rafa, and then that is our midfield just about complete, and we can start focusing on those fullback and attacking positions a little bit more. And Rafa is in as well, 19-year-old Spanish attacking midfielder, central midfielder and attacking midfielder. We're obviously going to be playing this guy in central midfield. We activated his release clause at Real Oviedo, so cost us a flat £5.5 million. No, never this time, but he's come straight in with that kind of transfer value. So certainly some resale value here with Rafa. He's a current Spanish under-19 international. He does have a relegation release clause and a minimum fee release clause, neither of which are ideal, but it was the only way to get him through the door, and his salary is pretty reasonable as well. Our central midfield is starting to look pretty useful going into next season now. If we just adjust that for the new signings, obviously some of these guys aren't going to be here or aren't going to play central midfield, but of the ones that are here and are going to play centre mid, Rafa is the best that we've got. We've got White, Chong, Sartori, Whiteman, Carrasco, New Boy Jones as well. We have got a solid centre mid now. I think we're good centre mid, centre back. We obviously need another striker to compete with Ida, although Sunjic could potentially do that role, but I think we probably need a third. Looking out wide, we still need probably another option out wide. We definitely need a couple of fullbacks and a goalkeeper, but luckily, there's still plenty of money left. We're doing a good job so far. More transfers like these ones. This is all going to plan so far. Even though we've missed out on a few of these players that we would have liked, it's generally all going to plan. And there's your confirmation that Ryan Fredericks has retired. So that's his salary off the wage bill. And I've just noticed as I've hit record, it seems my director of football is up to no good and is making an offer for a 31-year-old Anthony Martial for £1.5 million, which, as much as I'm thinking we don't need Anthony Martial, for £1.5 million, I think we probably do. He's better than Ida. He's better than anyone we've got on the left-hand side. He's only £1.5 million. I mean, he's on an extraordinary amount of money at Lazio. So I don't know if my director of football is going to be able to negotiate him down at all. But if this is on a sensible contract over a sensible period of time, that feels like that makes a lot of sense. Let's get him scouted so I can make a proper decision. This is why you should let your director of football do some transfers every now and again, boys and girls. 95% of them you just withdraw immediately because they're rubbish. And then every now and again, a gem like that comes along. In order to do it, it really is as simple as just going into transfers and having your director of football initiate player signings, but making sure you have the option to negotiate and veto them. So he doesn't just do transfers without you knowing. But that is one that I'm probably going to let happen if it sneaks through. Unless he's on stupid money. But that seems like good business. Well, in addition to Fredericks retiring, we've had a few players whose contracts have expired as well, most notably Sean Maguire, not that one. Silko Thomas has gone as well. There's a few others who've drifted away. Liam Lindsay, for example, has already signed for Hull. So I guess he was out of contract and not showing on the release list, even though he was released at the end of his contract and having finished his loan at Millwall. But yeah, it's the 1st of July. Players are back. He's £17 million for 2 stars of current ability. That's what we're up against here. All our loan players are returning to parent club as well, as you can see. There's a confirmation of Lindsay. He wasn't a regular stud. He'd been out on loan at Millwall for a year. The fans are idiots. And I'm just getting through the rest of these to see if there's anything else significant happening. He can go out on loan again. That works for me. And there we have another of our youngsters moving up through the ranks, although he's only a 3-star current ability. So 1st of July, our squad is looking, oh my word, it's looking small now. Our first team squad now comprises of 19 people. Why are some of them unavailable? Oh, because they're not in the training camp squad, I think, because they're off on international stuff, or were off on international stuff and are getting a longer break. Not quite sure what's gone on there, but only 19 players, so a much smaller squad to work with. Obviously, a few of those new boys have come in, but it does really emphasise those areas that we already knew about where we need new signings. They're all not centre-backs. So centre-back, I think we're good. I think 4 good centre-backs is fine. We still need a goalkeeper. We still definitely need a left-back and a right-back because most of these are not right-backs. So we've only got 1 right-back, 1 left-back. At defensive midfield, although there's several who can play there, realistically, it's probably Harvey White, Carrasco and Whiteman are the only ones who will play there. Central midfield, I think we're now sorted, having brought in Rafa and Sartori. They're definitely both going to get game time in there, and Daniel Jones and a couple of their youngsters as well. If we bring in Martial to go on the left, I think that side is sorted. And I think that also sorts us up front as well, where we'd have Ida, Martial and Sunjic as striker options. And we could possibly bring in another right midfielder, because if we look at who we've actually got who's natural out there, none of these lot are actually going to play out there. So we've only really got those 2. So I think a right winger is definitely needed. Whereas on the left-hand side, we've got a little bit more depth, especially if Martial comes in as well. So there's still definitely areas that need to be strengthened, but there is also still money. The game has, in its wisdom, decided to move a whole load of our money into wage budget, almost as if it's the 1st of July and I'm going to look at free transfers now. So we'll see what's available on free transfers and work from there. Well, it's proving trickier than anticipated to find that combination of player that is better than what we've got now, but doesn't want to go somewhere else instead of coming to Preston. But Finley Burns definitely fits that criteria. Only 24 years old, 3.5-star current ability, 4.5-star potential centre-back who can also play at the base of the midfield. He's 6'5". We've got a couple of big aerially dominant boys to play at the back this season now with Burns and de Klerk, and obviously the boys who were here last year as well. He's been at Manchester City for the majority of his career, having left Southend as a youngster, has had time on loan at various championship clubs, spent last season? No, the season before at QPR. When I read that, I thought he was part of the QPR championship winning team. He wasn't. It was the year before. Last year, he didn't play a game of football. Either way, should be good enough to come in and improve our defence. It's not a position we necessarily needed another player in. But you know what? I wasn't going to turn him down because he's better than most of what we already have. I think de Klerk and Burns as the 2 centre-backs, Small at left-back, potentially Fode Ballo-Touré, who's currently going in for a work permit and will be great as a first choice with Small as the backup and being mentored by Ballo-Touré. And then we just need a right-back and our defence is done. Obviously, we've got Darlington, but it would make sense to have a more experienced guy to work with him as well. We still need a goalkeeper. But the midfield, I think, is pretty much there. We're still waiting on a decision from Anthony Martial, which really is dictating whether or not we go for Brian Brobby or not. He wants like £75,000 a week, which we could just about pay. I don't really want to pay it, though. But he would provide an excellent option across the front 3. So we might go in for him anyway. It's still looking good. Things are going well. It's the 5th of July, and I'm still feeling pretty confident. And the media think we're better than QPR as well, which is very... Oh, they did. When I looked at this 3 days ago, we were 900 to 1, QPR were 1,000 to 1. Clearly, they've done better transfers than us so far. Fair enough. They've done better transfers than us so far. We need to get some transfers in. Well, we're not going to get Anthony Martial, which is a little bit upsetting. My director of football has immediately responded by going in for an offer for Dario Sarmiento from Manchester City on loan for the season, which does seem like it solves that wide problem. So we'll just get him scouted and leave my director of football to... He really has got a bee in his bonnet about that position, but now we go and look again at Brobby, who we tried to sign before. He is still here on trial, so we might not be able to get him because we balked at £75,000 a week before. We can't get him yet. His trial is about to end, so we will try for him as our second striker option. That's annoying. I hate it when players choose to go to other clubs. Rubbish. And there's another example of it. Andy Lyons, who was going to be our more mature right back, has gone to Derby in the Championship rather than signing for us. That is a kick in the nuts. Well, it's no longer quite going to plan as much as it was before. Right, Ballo-Touré is in, so that is 3/4 of our back four now complete. He's earning a lot of money, but he was a free transfer. I don't mind giving a free transfer a little bit of extra money because we're saving money on the deal up front. So if we go back into the squad planner again, have a look at the full squad view. We've now got Ballo-Touré, de Klerk, Burns. We need a right back. Darlington, probably not Premier League ready, at least as a starter just yet. And then White, Rafa, and who on earth is Anton Sung? I don't know who this guy is. No idea who that guy is and why he's here. Let's get him gone, shall we? It will be White, Rafa, and probably, I mean, it might even be Carrasco. I don't know why he's in there. We maybe need one more midfielder. We've got Ida up front, so he won't be out on that left-hand side. Sartori, probably, maybe Chong, maybe Sarmiento if we get him in from Manchester City. We definitely need a right midfielder. So I think highest priorities now, goalkeeper, right back, right midfielder, and backup striker that we still don't really have. Robbie fills a couple of those boxes if we can get him, but there are a number of other clubs in for him, so he is a big if. He would be a handy signing if we could get him in. Josh Clark is in. Nothing much to say about him. He's one for the future. We needed another goalkeeper. He was available on the cheap from Celtic. Hadn't been using him. He was playing for Cardiff in the Championship last season. He's not good enough to start for us yet, but as an English player with decent potential, 4-star potential, he'll probably be third choice. Angelini is likely to be on his way out of the club. Kovacic likely to be on his way out of the club, and then we'll have Nichols as backup, Clark as third choice, and another goalkeeper coming in over the top. That's the plan. I don't want to have to go with just those two, and that be that. Brian Brobby is a Preston player, backup striker to Adam Ida, also able to play out on the right-hand side, in behind the striker, on the left-hand side. He's going to get a lot of game time in a lot of these attacking positions, and we finally have an additional striker, so we don't have to rely on Ida all the time. He's been at Ajax for many, many, many years. 2 spells at Ajax. Looking at this, he went to Leipzig briefly. I remember this happening. They did a Manchester United. They let him go for free and spent big money to bring him back. So plenty of time, plenty of games for Ajax. Should play lovely football for us. Still only 25. He's on a lot of money and has release clauses for if I sneeze too hard while he's in the room. But he's in, and he's exactly the kind of player that we needed to get him because we needed numbers in the attack. It was very dangerous going into another season with only Adam Ida as an option up front. Now at least we have an additional option, and he might end up playing on that right-hand side. We shall see. I have a plan, by the way. I don't know if it's a good plan. You know how they always say your best bet is a newly promoted team in the Premier League worried about relegation. Your best bet is to play an 18-year-old goalkeeper. We might be doing that. Zelmar Blanco, an 18-year-old Uruguayan goalkeeper, has come up on my scout reports. 3-star current ability, which makes him as good as Nichols. 5-star potential, though. He's going to end up getting very good. We're bringing him in. We are bringing him in. We might start the season with Nichols in goal. We shall see. That will be our third goalkeeper then. It'll be fine. Well, Blanco is in. He needs to learn to speak English fast, but we have a goalkeeper as good as the one we already had with 2 caps already for Uruguay. I mean, look at the state of that value. He is he a wonder kid? I mean, he should be a wonder kid. He's fickle. He's not a wonder kid. He will be soon. Best goalkeeper at the club, 5-star potential. Goalkeepers, if you watch my Twitch save, which you should be watching, you'll know just how hard it is to find goalkeepers in FM23 once you get a little bit further into the save like we are. So to be able to pick up an 18-year-old genuine wonder kid, that could be huge. Not necessarily for this season. We'll probably still get relegated. But for the longer-term success of Preston, and look at the release clauses on the boy. He's going to be a superstar. Very happy with that signing. Oh, we're not going to get Sarmiento, though. That takes the edge off it a little bit. Sarmiento doesn't get a work permit. My director of football is trying to bring in a 30-year-old. I don't really want another 30-year-old, especially not another 30-year-old very similar to the midfielders we've already got. If he was a box-to-box midfielder, maybe. I think that's probably where we're short. Right, we've not got Sarmiento, so we'll cancel that transfer. So we are a little bit short in all of the wide areas again. If we go back into the squad planner and just shuffle around for the new signing, have a look at the full squad view. I mean, if we take Bobby out of there because he's a striker, Ida comes out. So we've only got 3 on that side. I mean, Chong should be fine, but then Chong's not going to be over there. Robbie probably will, but for now, I mean, we definitely need a right winger. And then up front, I think we probably are all right now with those 3. But we absolutely need a right winger. I'd like a box-to-box midfielder. If we're going to play White as at the base of the midfield and Rafa further forward with Sartori playing as like a sub in the wide areas and maybe in central midfield, we don't really want Rafa and Sartori in there together. So here, I mean, it could be Carrasco, but there's a pretty strong argument he's not yet ready to be starting in the Premier League. So if it's not Carrasco and it's not White because he's playing deeper, we don't really have that box-to-box midfielder. So now we've got the goalkeeper sorted. We need a right back because we missed out on Andy Lyons, which is frustrating, and none of these guys are going to play there. So we've only got Darlington. We need a right back, a right midfielder, and a box-to-box midfielder. How many players have we got in this squad now? 23 of them, but 4 of them are goalkeepers. He's on his way out, so we can get him out of the way. So that's a 22-man squad. We want 3 more players. Brings us to 25, which is a nice little number for the Premier League. Boom. How much money have we got? It's getting desperate money-wise. We might have to start looking at loans. Okay. It'll be fine. Right, we have a right back, Rule Walters, in from Arsenal for £4 million. Again, similar kind of thing. Not much of it was up front. About £1 million of it is up front, so it's not affected our current budgets too much. 3 stars of current ability, 4-star potential, can play left back and centre back as well, but he's been brought in to compete with Darlington for that right back position. As I finalised that deal, my director of football made an offer for another right back, although it looks like we missed out on him because he's not showing on there. They made an offer for this guy, but it seems that the offer hasn't... I mean, I don't need him. We've just signed Walters. The 2 we are after, Kobe Mainu from Manchester United as another option for us in central midfield. And this guy, the one I really want, Russell Ross, double R, 2 first names. He's a right winger with a left foot who can also play up front. He's nice and quick. He's been playing for Wigan in the Championship for the last year. He's been in the Championship with 15 goal contributions, scored 17 goals in League One the year before, still only 20 years old. He's English and he's a perfectionist. This guy would be the player we need on that right-hand side, but Sheffield United have got involved to try and spoil our fun. So it might be that he'll decide to go there. Despite Sheffield United being in the Championship, we've had this happen already this summer. But fingers crossed, we manage to get him. And I think if we get those 2, in addition to Walters, who's just come in, as far as I'm concerned, that is the squad complete. And then we'll just see where we end up. I don't know. I have no idea. This first season in the Premier League, it's always the same. I have no idea if this squad will be good enough to stay up. It really depends on how the likes of Ida, Chong, those kind of players respond to the step up to the Premier League. If it turns out they're decent Premier League players, we've got a chance. If it turns out they're not, we haven't. And there's not much way of knowing until we play our first half dozen or so games. We'll have a much clearer idea then. But fingers crossed, we get these final 2 players over the finish line, and then I'll be pretty happy with the squad. Even if it isn't good enough to stay up, I'll be pretty happy with it. Oh, the final pieces of the puzzle are coming together. Russell Ross is a Preston player, signing from Wigan for £10 million, rising to a potential £12.5 million. 20 years old. He's an inverted winger / inside forward to play on this right-hand side. Can also play up front. He's 6 foot tall. He's decent in the air. I mean, he's quick. That's the important thing. And he's the best right winger we've got. And he is a proven player at Championship level at the very least. So I consider that a win. Add a midfielder or 2, and we are currently in for 3. I've got to decide which 1 or 2 of those that I actually want. But but add them in and we really, really are done. I like this squad a lot. Well, our selection of midfielders has decreased. Both of them decided to go elsewhere. We have got in for Sean Longstaff because he is a natural box-to-box midfielder. That's what we're looking for. But I think this might be the guy, Gerard Yepes, who is at West Ham currently. Not really had a look in at West Ham since joining from Sampdoria. But I think he will be the guy. He can play as the deep line playmaker. But he can also, can he play as a box-to-box midfielder? I see he can't. Maybe he's not the guy. Maybe we get both. This is the team we're probably going into the first day of the season with. So Blanco in goal. In fact, we want to make Blanco a sweeper keeper. Starters you mean to go on. Sweeper keepers are for the cool kids. The back four I'm very happy with. Ballo-Touré, Bernard, de Klerk, Walters. We've obviously got Finley Burns who can come in and play centre-back. We've got Darlington who can come in. We've got Thierry Small who can come in. We've got Nichols as a backup goalkeeper. The whole defence goalkeeper situation, very happy there. Also pretty happy up top, where we've got Adam Eder up front. On the left, although we'll be starting with Woodburn, you've got plenty of options who can come in on that side. Chong, Brobby, Sartori who came in the summer, so I'm happy out there. On the right, having Ross in is fantastic. He'll be our starter over on this side. But we do have, options. Chong, Brobby, Woodburn, Sartori, Sunjic. None of them you'd necessarily want to start there. If Ross gets an injury, we've got a little bit of a problem. But I think we've got enough cover for if Ross plays every week. But it's central midfield. I'm a little bit not happy with my balance. White, I think, is going to do a great job at the base of the midfield. We've got Whiteman to play there as well, if need be. Chong is one of many players who can play this role. Rafa can obviously play there as well. Sartori can play there as well. But as a natural box-to-box midfielder, if Harvey White's playing deep, which I think he has to, because I don't think Whiteman is Premier League level necessarily, which means White, who is our best box-to-box midfielder, is playing at the base of the midfield. Rafa can't really do it. Chong can't really. Nobody can really do it. We've got Carrasco, but he's very young. He's probably too. Where is he? He's too young, really, to be starting in the Premier League, I think. I don't mean young. I mean, not yet good enough. Long term, that's his role, playing there as the box-to-box midfielder. Although even he is developing more into becoming a playmaker. We've just got loads of playmakers. We're bringing in Sean Longstaff, aren't we? Just to get some box-to-box in there properly. But I think that will then give us that midfield balance. We've got some nice strength in depth. I am really happy with this squad. The Premier League looks like this. The media think we're going to get relegated with QPR. But if Norwich, we were so much better than Norwich last year. If Norwich can escape relegation, we can escape relegation. That's got to be the goal. The media also think that de Klerk is our best player. You can't really argue with that. And Sunjic is our best young player, which again, you can't really argue with that. He'll get game time this year. So I am confident we've managed to do it within budget. We've not gone nuts. We've spent a total of 19 million plus a little bit at the end of last season. That's another 25 or so. So we've spent about 45 million. We've sold, I don't know, maybe 5 million last season. It's a net spend of about 40 million pounds, which for being new in the Premier League, I can cope with that. We've only run up 20 million pounds of a transfer debt. And we've got all that Premier League money to come in. I think that's an incredibly good summer. And now we get to start it against Everton. So Danny Hudson's probably going to score a goal against us tomorrow, and I'm going to be very sad. But at the moment, I'm very happy. If you've enjoyed that, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on there for me. Subscribe to the channel for daily Football Manager videos. And thank you very much for watching.